Hello and welcome to Bigfoot Odyssey. I hope everybody's doing all right out there tonight. With me stepping in for Kerry because I think he's working hard today. Is Jackie Eindogger. How are you doing, Jackie?
Doing really good. Thanks, Daniela. How are you?
Good, doing good, thank you. Looking forward to tonight's show. We've got Daryl Adams coming from Oregon. And if anybody knows about the Owl Moon Lab, it's a fascinating property where just crazy stuff. Can only describe it as very weird and strange stuff has been going on and been documented over the years. And Daryl, you were the owner of the property at some point. But first of all, welcome to Bigfoot Odyssey. Thanks for coming on tonight.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll get into what went on at the Owl Moon Lab, but things have kind of been strange for you as well prior to that. But tell us how you got into Bigfoot, how you even got into any of this.
How I got into like the Bigfoot stuff, I was a contractor in California, and then I was going to retire and we were going to move to Oregon. My wife got a good job up here, so we moved up here, and I wasn't really into Bigfoot. I was hunting and fishing I was into, but my brother was more into Bigfoot when we were growing up. We're in the Boy Scouts, and we went in the Sierras and camped, and my brother's a little older than me, so he was into the Patterson Gimlin thing back in the day. My mom would get the Reader's Digest, and he read the story that they had in there about it. So he wrote Roger Patterson a letter when he was about 12. I was about 5 or 6. We were just kids. And Roger Patterson wrote him back and said, yeah, you guys come on up. And we're like little kids, in the Cub Scouts or whatever. But he was into, my brother's really into Bigfoot. He has a ranch in Oklahoma, and he knows all the Bigfoot people over there. So when I retired, he's like, hey, when you're out there hunting and, tramping around in the forest, keep your eye out for this, like a stick structure or something. I didn't know what I was doing. Pretty soon I'm out here in the middle of nowhere, and here's these weird crosses and sticks here and there. And I'm like, there's nobody out here, here's footprints, barefoot out in the briar patch, and all that. I know people are kind of crazy or tweakers or whatever, but they're not going to be out here. And then so I just started, doing all that, taking pictures, sending to him and all that. And that's kind of how I got into it. I really didn't really believe in it at first, And then once I moved up here, I thought, well, yeah, it's so thick up here. You could get 10 foot off the road and live your whole life and no one would ever see you if you didn't want them to.
Yeah.
So at first I was the guy that thought, yeah, there's a 800-pound monkey man living out here in the woods. That's what I thought. And then once I moved to that Owl Moon house, everything changed because of all the other stuff that came along with it.
Yeah.
When I first moved in, it was wintertime. I think we moved there in the first part of December, and it was raining like it does in Oregon. So we would hear those sounds at night, and I couldn't record anything because it was raining. I couldn't put a recorder in the rain. And then coming around to like June, like this time of the year, my brother got invited to the Beachfoot that's happening now. And he goes, hey, you want to go to this? I go, man, sure. He goes, you're living in the middle of it. So we went to the Beachfoot, and I'm sitting down by the campfire, and Ron Moorhead, the guy with the Sierra Sound, he's sitting next to me, and I go, yeah, I live out there. He goes, oh, yeah, I know where you live. My daughter lives right over there by you. And I go, is there anybody in the area that could kind of, school me on some of this Bigfoot stuff? And he goes, oh, yeah, there's a great guy, Toby Johnson. And he gave me his information. And then when I got back from Beachfoot, I just hit him up on Messenger or whatever. And Toby's like, who the heck are you? Some person out of the blue. And I go, well, I talked to Ron. Oh, Ron, okay, you're good then. So Toby came out. It was kind of like, I'm wanting to think it was something to do with when they did the trackway at London. So Toby was out there, and I met him where they cast all those footprints. And then Toby was kind of, I think, going through divorce at the time or whatever. So he was kind of in limbo. He had a camping trailer and, trying to get a place or whatever. And we just got that big property and had the shop put up. So I told him, hey, man, just park your trailer out here. and we can just see what happens. And he did, and then the rest is history. Crazy stuff started happening pretty much right off the bat. It was elk hunting time, so we were back up in the woods behind the property. Toby was driving truck, so he was kind of had odd hours. He would work all night, and so that day he'd come in about 4. So the evening hunt, like if you hunt deer or elks, you kind of go early morning, then evening when they come out. So that evening we went up, and right along the side of the road, we're driving kind of up this logging road, and the dirt on the side of the road was red clay, and it had been raining like it does. And Toby looks off to the side and he goes, "Stop!" And I look, and here's these 2 giant divots in the bank there. Looked like someone got mad at their little brother in the back seat and yanked him out and jammed his head in the mud 2 times, about that big, about the size of a basketball. And it looked so weird. And there was a deer trail right to the left of it, and then the hill there. So it was just like the perfect ambush point for a predator to ambush a deer. And there was fresh deer tracks, but that was the knee impressions that we cast. We stayed there that night until midnight, until all the plaster dried, all the hydrocal. And that night just happened to be, I think it was called the Owl Moon that night. That's how Toby got the name. You know how they got the different moons, like a wolf moon, it was like a full moon. So it was the Owl Moon. Yeah, there they are. And then there's still hairs sticking in the plaster, and Toby got tons of hairs off them. I still got some hairs.
Oh,
And
wow.
then we sent the hair samples to Cindy Dose and a lady up in Canada. She has the Hominid Enigma Laboratory or something like that, and she did the analysis on them, and they came back as non-human, human type. They have no medulla. Unknown hair.
Oh, it's fascinating, isn't it? They look huge,
Yes.
don't they, when you see
Yeah.
them from perspective.
Yeah. But when it was muddy because it had been raining. So when the thing lifted its knees out of there, it left hair. And we never told the lady anything. Toby never even told her nothing. He just said, "Can you check these hairs out?" And she goes, "They came from a lower portion of the animal, like possibly around the ankles or the knees." And she didn't know anything about the hair when she wrote the thing up. See, there's one of the hairs there sticking out.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But it's still, Toby still has those, and they're still hair. And you can see the knee part, how your knee has a little side bump on it right there.
Yeah, like a little divot in it.
Yeah. And then the layers.
Wow.
Yeah, just pretty much like that.
Yeah, there's actually, if you go to the Animal Lab, I will put up the link. People can check out. It's like an interactive book he's got, isn't it? Where there's video clips attached to it, and it's pretty fascinating the things that you've collected. Now, it's not just Bigfoot. There's a weird stuff going on. EVPs, crazy stuff. What were you picking up first when you got there? What was
Well, you did when you showed the photo, you could see the shop in the backdrop.
Yeah,
that was the new shop that we just built, and we put those knees inside the shop at night. And then I had the counter with the lights, so we would set them. I built a little carrier, and we'd set them up there, and then look with a with a magnifying glass and get the hair and stuff. But strange things started happening in that shop once we got those knees in there, like the popping and the banging, and just like something would it was just like a bang would go off, and then all of a sudden you'd hear somebody talk in the background, like an old man or some guy preaching, like something from the 20s or something, and just all kinds of maybe little kids talking. Just a lot of EVPs there, and tons of knocking and banging and strange sounds. Sometimes it would just be knocking in there so bad it was just like someone like 50 people were in there with hammers just hitting inside the metal, like drumming. And you go in there the next day, not a thing out of place, not a ding, not a dent, nothing has happened.
That is pretty crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Did they take place in specific times, like during, 11 to 2 a.m. In particular, or did you notice?
I didn't really notice it a lot during the daytime, but we weren't, Toby was normally at work and I wasn't really hanging out there all the time. And then I would put the recorder in there at night.
Oh, okay.
So, and it didn't matter, if it was like, some people might think that the shop will heat up during the day and then when it expands at night, it's going to, it might have had a couple of the little pops from that, but it wasn't nothing like that. It would do it in the winter, the summer, all year long. We were there for like a year and a half. And it wasn't nothing like that. It was like a total somebody in there beating on the walls with hammers. And then you would hear the big bang, and then you would hear the EVP, like it kind of manifested itself through a portal or something that just kind of, and then you would hear it. There was always a bang prior to it, an EVP.
And that only started after you brought that cast into the shop?
Yeah, we probably had only had that new shop built for 2 months prior to that. So we kind of weren't in there doing much to notice anything.
Okay.
But when we brought those knees in, the shop had 2 real nice doors on, you push a button like your garage door. And we would keep it closed and locked because I had a bunch of tools in there and stuff. And one morning we came out, one of those big garage doors was up. They were big enough for RVs to park in. It was up. Here was some muddy footprints of some size 11 shoe. And Toby took the shoe to the place where they do sports shoes like Nike or whatever here in Oregon, because it's in Eugene. And he knows the guy. And the guy says, well, this shoe is an issued kind of combat boot from some military overseas. But the muddy footprint went up to the knee prints and didn't come out. Toby, I'm sure, still has the pictures of that. It was crazy stuff like that happened in there. After things would get moved, things would show up, a little plastic dinosaur. We started getting gifts, little plastic toy dinosaur like a kid has, in a pack of little toys, sitting there right up on the counter. And then Toby actually had a board that he hot glue gunned a bunch of this stuff on. Anytime we would be sitting in there, not anytime, but a lot of times we were sitting in there, and it was hunting season, for bow and arrows. It starts here in Oregon. So the next day in the morning, Toby's getting ready to leave, and behind my pickup is an old arrow laying there on the ground. It was stuff like that would happen. What you would talk about would show up. So there was an old arrow that was all, old and didn't have all the fledgings on it or whatever they're called, laying there on the ground. Another time it was like the World Series, and we were talking about baseball and all that, and there was an old baseball stuck behind my truck in the gravel, and it was like it was embedded into the ground halfway on the baseball, because the ground's so hard there, you can't, it's packed ground with gravel you're driving on.
Right.
But it was like when it popped into existence or whatever, it cast itself halfway into the, and it was like the Sasquatch or whatever just had all this stuff hidden somewhere, and every time they'd bring it, it would have like moss on it, like it'd been sitting out in the woods for 30 years.
Wow. It had a knack of, like you said, so every time you brought something up, that kind of thing.
It would
here
go up, and it would almost could read your mind, if you can believe that somehow. Like Toby, he built the big Sasquatch he calls Biggie. It's like a rendition of a giant Sasquatch. It's cool. But he was saying he wanted to put like a little forest scene in front of it. Like some ferns and maybe like a little stuffed rabbit, like the Bigfoot looking at the rabbit. The next day he comes in from work and here's this dead little rabbit laying out there. Yeah. It looked like it would just been killed. Like something took a little rock and hit it right in the head. And it's laying there because he was talking about purchasing a stuffed rabbit, online to make the scene in front of the forest scene in front of his Bigfoot.
That's way more than coincidence.
And then Toby hates snakes, he hates them. And so he goes, well, at least it wasn't or I might have said, at least it wasn't a snake or whatever. Sure enough, 3 days later, here's this exact same spot, this dead snake laying there.
Wow.
And then that was kind of during the summer months, and we have these little bees. They're like little wasps, and they eat meat, anything dead, or they're little, I don't know. We call them meat bees out here because they will bite you too. But so anything that lays out there for an hour is going to be half eaten by those little hornets. So those two things couldn't have been over 10 minutes
dead
prior to that.
Wow. That's incredible. There's also lots of outdoors, lots of interesting things like this going on. I mean, this is quite intricate, isn't it?
It is. And we had a guy, I can't remember, a friend of Toby's, and he does weaving and stuff out of driftwood, making he makes all kinds of big, crazy things out of driftwood. And he looked at one of those and he's like, I couldn't even do that. And I'm a professional artist.
Wow.
The way they're intricately weaved together, the small.
Yeah, there's a lot to that, isn't there? There's a lot of detail about it. But
yeah, if you see them in person, it's like they almost started with real small ones and started knitting them in there somehow. And then the bigger ones without breaking them, branches. If I tried that or someone tried it, they'd just snap.
Yeah. So, even green stuff can easily snap, can't it? And here, these are signs being left.
Yeah, see the square around the bottom? And then the thing kind of twisted. When I was up there about 2 weeks ago, there's some new stuff up there like that. They're almost like weaved like a dream weaver. Like you see, there's one of those up there. It's been there a while. And then they call them glyphs on a lot of the stumps around that area. They'll lay like just broken sticks at different angles. I've seen I call it the anarchy sign. It's kind of like an A with a crossbar through it. You know how an A normally has a straight, but it'll kind of be at a 45-degree angle. And I see that a lot. I don't know what symbol that is for them, and sometimes my brother seems to think if the crossbar is pointing this way, that's their trail that way. If it's pointing that way, that's their trail. It's kind of a marker that they leave.
Yeah.
But who knows?
Yeah. I've always wondered why intelligent creatures need these markers or signs. I mean, but like you say, who knows? I mean, this could be a message to other Sasquatch. We're kind of trying to think like they think, but who knows how they think? And
you never know.
Absolutely anything. This was the other one. This is stuff actually Tobe sent me a while ago, but this is another angle from it, and you can just see how.
See how those three are kind of weaved around the other one, and it's just weaved back together at the top. It's almost weird to say, but it's almost like impossible to do it.
It's quite intricate.
It really is. It really is. So there's a crossover, isn't there, on that property of? Is it Bigfoot or is it something else? Because you're capturing weird stuff all the time.
It was different stuff. At first we brought the knees, and then I was already hearing the sounds before that, and I was recording, but then we brought the knees, and then they kind of got more personal to where they were coming onto the property. in the back we had a fence, and they have T-posts. They're a metal post that they hang wire on. We had one of those across the back with wire separating the fence, and two of those T-posts, I mean, they're super strong.
Yeah.
Something just grabbed them and bent them down like that. Two of them looked like they grabbed a hold here and just bent the top down. So Toby, he's always talking to him. I don't know. He goes, "Hey, you guys need to knock this stuff off, doing damage to the property or whatever." Sure enough, within a couple of weeks, we weren't even paying attention. We went back and they were bent right back up.
Wow.
And I don't even think a human could do that. I mean, you would have to probably heat the metal up with a pipe or something over the top but something that big and strong, they could just manhandle it like that.
It's just, yeah, it's just fascinating, isn't it? These things that are happening, and I've got some of the capturing prints. These are big.
Yeah, those were the ones that were on the truck, and those are Toby's on the bottom to kind of give you an idea of the size of them.
That's see the hair or something around it.
Yeah, you could see the dermal, from your finger, dermals on them when you were looking at them.
Yeah,
it's like the Bigfoot have grease built onto them somehow. Their hands are greasy. I don't know. They probably don't bathe.
Well, I mean, who knows what that is? I mean, sheep are greasy, aren't they? They are underneath the wall. There's a lot of grease there. There must be a reason why we see a lot of prints with that greasy mark or the residue left of it. I don't know who could explain why that happens. I guess we all give off grease. The less products you use, the more your own oils are there, aren't they? So
your body oils, and then if you don't bathe, your body will just start doing that more and more.
Yeah,
we wash it off on dish soap.
It seems really thick, like a resin too.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. So you did some experiments.
Yeah, I tried to think of some kind of booby traps, I would say, things like that. I also I don't know if you've ever seen the little rat traps. They're super sticky, like people put on their floor for mice or vermin or rats. And if they run on them, they get stuck in it. It's like a really, it's a little plastic square thing with sticky stuff. But I nailed some of those up in the tree about 8 foot and put cookies behind them. And I got some big old blob of reddish orangutan looking hair on one of them. Ooh. Where they had to reach to get the cookies. So they touched their arm on there and it pulled the hairs off their arm. That was one of my little booby traps I set to try to get some evidence. I also took, they love eggs. I took like 4 dozen eggs, half boiled, half not cooked, and just did a little Easter egg hunt around there. And I'd come back in a week and all the eggs were gone. Not a shell, not anything. I mean, if a raccoon or something came there and was eating egg, they'd leave the shell or where you can see. And so anyway, I took some 2-sided tape and I hung one of these eggs up off one of the branches. So whatever got the egg had to take it out of the tape. So I took it out of the tape and I got some really nice big fingerprints on that 2-sided tape. That was another one of my little booby traps.
Great tech.
Tons of hair. Tons of hair. Me and a guy named Mark Parker, he went up there. He actually saw a Sasquatch up there one night. It scared the heck out of him. He's a big dude, like 6'5", a big old guy. And he was shaking in my truck, wanting to get the heck out of there. He left his chair sitting there and everything. I had to go back and get it the next day. But anyways, me and him pulled up to the site, and I had put eggs out there about a week before. Here in the middle of the logging road is an egg, a raw egg, standing up in the middle of the logging road that came from 1,000 feet down the hill. So, and it wasn't broken. It didn't even have a crack in it. So we pull up and he goes, "What's that?" I go, "It looks like one of those eggs." How could that egg have gotten 1,000 feet from down that hill up there, setting right in the middle of the road, perfectly sat there without even a crack on it? I mean, if a crow or something had carried it up there, it's going to crack it, I think. Or a raccoon or something. I mean, they're not going to be that gentle with an egg.
It'd be interesting to put little marks on the eggs, little symbols, and list them out with some symbols on them, and see if you find them again. I know Shane Carpenter was doing that. They were painting rocks, and these rocks were getting thrown at them. But
I remember a friend of mine, Randy Harrington.
Yeah, exactly.
Back in Kansas, he did that.
Yeah, and they knew where the rocks were coming from because they positioned them in different areas. So that would be fascinating to see how far your eggs might go.
Toby made some little like Scrabble pieces. You know, he wrote on them and he put numbers on them, and then he'd set them on the stump, and then they'd disappear and vanish, and sometimes some would come back. And then one time, they would write things out. I mean, they wouldn't always spell it right, but one time it said Topai because there wasn't a B. So it said his name. It looked like his name, but it was with a P. You know, like a small B is like an upside down P.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be a P, but they turned it upside down and said
and used it creatively.
To write his name. Like, what? And we're out in the woods here. There's not someone around there.
Now, you mentioned before about hearing these knocks in the property, and you were saying it was almost like, just dum dum dum.
Yeah.
Would you mind telling us a little bit about the encounter where you actually saw a Sasquatch hitting rocks together very, very fast?
It actually wasn't at that property. I was elk hunting out towards the coast of Oregon.
Right.
It was me and another guy, and there was an area. It's called Dora, or a Sitcom area. It's up an old wagon train road from the 1800s where the wagon trains went through, and we were elk hunting up there. And he knew where there was a spring of water boiling out of the ground, of ice cold water, where people would come and get water because it was so good. So we pulled in there to have lunch at the spring, and I had my gun and everything. We were hunting. So, and I had a bear tag too, because you can hunt bear here. So anyway, we hear something, and this is a Sunday, so there's no one working. We hear there's an old logging road that kind of angled over. So we hear something knocking like that real fast over there, and he's like, "What the heck is that?" His name's Jonathan. And I go, "I don't know." And he goes, "I'm going to go over that little rise and see if I can see what it is." So he takes off walking kind of to the left, and we could still hear that. And then all of a sudden, as he gets over that way a little bit, over on the right, I hear it again. And then that's when I looked over there and saw that Sasquatch squatting down. So when he kind of started going towards the other one, this one kind of, I guess, signaled it or something. I don't know. Like, hey, someone's coming. But it was crazy how fast. So I snapped a couple pictures of it, and then it was gone. And then we heard the clacking, the rock clacking on up over the rise to the right. Like they both kind of went around the back of the hill and hooked back up together.
No, I'll share that picture because it's great when you've got context to a picture. Sometimes people just snap it, or go back over videos and they see something.
I'll send it to you.
I think you've sent me it. You sent me the one with the where it was in the distance.
Yeah, running down the power line.
Yeah.
Yeah, right in there.
Now, it's just there.
And then there's a big creek right below that. So it just kind of went right down there and it was gone.
Wow.
And it was a ways up when I first saw it. So.
Yeah. And I mean, these things, would you agree they just blend into the environment, or seem to be able to just blend into it?
Yeah, Oregon's had fires and stuff, and there's a lot of stumps. So there's the burnt stumps. And when you're out in the woods, they look just like a Sasquatch or something, bent, squatted down, and they can hide anywhere.
Right in plain sight. Sometimes it feels like.
And all the logging roads are gravel, so you can hear a vehicle coming for 2 miles away, when you're out in the woods like that. So they already know you're coming. You don't got to, get out and yell and knock on trees and announce, "Hey, I'm here." They already know they already know you're there. They've heard you coming for a few miles away.
Mm.
And I think, they're like people go to malls to watch people. I think they kind of fill people out. They watch you and they kind of get to know your demeanor a little bit before they're going to interact with you. If you're some psycho with a gun and you're, hey, out here, they're going to just go.
Bye.
Yeah.
Well, there seems to be, a reason why people are having these encounters and why they're all so different. And those obviously not obviously, but there's a group of people who are having a lot of interaction with these things and not scary. I mean, have you been frightened by any of these experiences? Do you worry about anything?
Yeah, the only time I was frightened once was where Toby had that stump where they spelled the Topi thing, or Topi, kind of like almost his name. Down below that, I went down there to check on some of this stuff, and down below that, it just sounded like there was a herd of buffaloes coming up the hill. Scared the heck out of me. I ran back up. My wife was with me. I ran back up the hill to the truck, and I was like, what in the world? It was almost like the ground came alive, just like a rumble. And, I heard Politis talk about that on one of his things. Him and his wife were in Wyoming or something, and there was some tules, and it sounded like there was a herd of elk coming at them, but there was nothing. And that's how this was. Once I got up the hill a little bit, I could look over the rise there and see there was nothing there. But it was just like a sound of a herd of buffaloes coming up at me. And that really scared me right there, because the intensity of the sound.
Yeah, and you can hear as something seems like it's approaching.
Of something coming, and you're like, "Oh man, what am I going to do?" So you try to get away, but then there's nothing. I don't know. And then we did the game cams, and Mark Parker, the guy I was talking about, the big guy that got scared when he saw the Bigfoot. He hunts, and he has some really expensive game cameras, that you put on the trees. He has some real good ones because he puts them out like 6 months for elk hunting, and they're really expensive ones. He put them up there, and he has one where he would get those Nutter Butter cookies and put them in the bushes and then hide his camera. And you can actually see those cookies just disappearing. And here's this predator-looking distorted image snagging these cookies right out of the tree. And they just vanish in thin air. His camera does video. So you're just watching this happen. He has that, and it's just a distortion of like Predator, the movie. That's what it kind of looks like.
There's a lot of people that have described seeing that very thing.
Yeah. He has a video of that. And then I have one of my game camera, but mine takes pictures of where I used to like rub peanut butter on the tree. And then I would take the Mylar balloons, like you get for birthdays or whatever, smear a thin thing of peanut butter on them and hang them there. That way, if a Sasquatch grabbed onto it, I would get the handprints and the fingerprints like that. That's from peanut butter that I put out. But I got tons of fingerprints, but, what do you do with them?
This is the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do you compare the evidence to and with to get something? But it's great that you
fingerprint.
Yeah, it's great you've got the imagination to try and capture any bit of evidence that we can. Hopefully one day there'll be somewhere for it to go to where it will be confirmed or something. This is another great little idea Strangeland suggested. leave a little container of water and a strip of paint colors, maybe something like watercolors in a solid form, and
some people leave coloring books with crayons, and stuff like that. Yeah,
definitely got to have something in hands, hasn't it, to draw.
At first, I was thinking about hair samples and fingerprints and all that, but then once I had all that, where do you go from there? I didn't really want to. I had thought about some bad things because I'd seen trees where bears were tearing them up. So I'll put like a metal thing around them that has a bunch of tabs sticking out that are sharp, so the bear doesn't do that. I thought about that and covering it with peanut butter. That way, if they went like that, or I would get blood, for a blood sample.
Oh, right.
But then I didn't want to do that, anyway, or whatever.
No.
So other than having a body, we have everything that you can possibly get. Pretty much, we have pictures, tons of footprints, fingerprints, hair samples, some DNA. We got some snot off the window.
Oh, right. Excellent.
My old place. Did Toby show you that? Where up about 8 foot on the window, outside of the property, the Almoon property, you could see the perfect nostril where the thing got up against the window and was listening or looking in the window. The house was a big 2-story farmhouse, and you could just perfectly see the impression that its greasy face left with a big nose, and then the snot, where you breathe on glass,
Yeah.
When you're cleaning it, you with your breath and clean it. Well, this thing was leaning there for a long time, so it left a snot running down. So Toby collected those with Q-tips and stuff, for the DNA. But you could totally perfectly see where it was up against, like kids do,
Yep.
Lick the windows.
Yeah.
Little window lickers.
It's such a shame, isn't it? There's so much kind of evidence out there, and we just can't bring it together to present it anywhere. You'd need less, wouldn't you, to convict somebody in court than what we've got.
Really, yeah. And then that area has that thing that shows up at night. The neighbor that's lived there since like 94, he'd lived there. We call him Wormy, but his name is Chris. We call him that because he raises organic soil worms, they use them for horticulture or whatever, for growing whatever. But anyways, he raises a bunch of worms, so we called him Wormy. That was his nickname. But he had seen a Sasquatch in his driveway. He owned like 80 acres up in those hills, a little further over. But he had been seeing that UFO thing. It's like a big ball of power that can surge like this. Then it can just move real quick this way or up or down. And then it'll just go real slowly. And then it'll just vanish. But it's almost like a plasma ball of and it'll expand and go back and expand. But he'd been seeing that thing for years, and it's still out there. He texts me sometimes. He calls it the chandelier because it, like a crystal chandelier has all those.
Yeah.
Kind of what it looks like. I call it a jellyfish because I've been to the Monterey Aquarium where they got those glow in the dark jellyfish that do all the pretty colors.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looks like. Wow. And then they kind of pulsate also.
I witnessed something like that late one night, and it was so fascinating, and it came over and it was so quiet, and it did that whole expand and it makes you go, what am I seeing?
Yeah, you can't, the human brain, you can't imagine some of this stuff. Your mind won't allow it. It's just too weird.
Yeah, I kept trying to say, well, maybe it was debris or something.
Yeah, I mean, me and Toby were like the debunkers to the 10th power, but we couldn't debunk it, It's just, wow.
Yeah.
About the time you think you can outsmart it or think what's going on, it'll just totally take a right turn.
You've been capturing some crazy orbs.
Yeah.
This picture is incredible.
Yeah, now those are actually coming out of the ground and going up, and then they would just vanish. we saw a lot of people. Dave Osborne, the guy that was here from South California, he saw those with us, and another guy named Ren. And you can see some of them are twisty, like the one back to the right, and the one they look like they're twisty. But they would just come out of the ground really slow, and they're like a real dull light, like a real dim light bulb, and then they would just fade out.
Yeah, that one there at the back.
That is fascinating.
It's creepy, isn't it? I mean,
yeah.
Whatever it is. I don't know if anyone else has seen anything like that. Let us know in the comments. And there was another one. This here.
Yeah. Now that was up in the Cascades that are further away from that area, probably 15, 20 miles away. We were all up there one night about, I don't know, 10, 11 at night at this one area that's really a squatchy area. And there was probably 5 people there, 5 or 6. And there was one lady there that's kind of a psychic kind of lady or whatever. So they were all beating on their drums, around the fire. And we were standing there. And there was a creek running behind there and you could hear it. And she goes, there's a couple Sasquatch over there by that creek. So I just kind of walked back. There was a trail that's a tree you can see to the left of that thing. Okay. But there's a trail to the right of it that goes down to the creek. So I started walking on that trail and I did about maybe 50 feet or so. And I see these flashes start going on, like an old camera, someone taking a flash bulb camera out there. Just a big flash. So I stopped because I know if someone was there, they would have had to come from way back in the woods some other way because everyone with us was around the fire or the thing there. So I stood there. I didn't want to go any further. I didn't know what it was. And I hear something splashing rocks in the creek, throwing rocks, big rocks. So I'm thinking, that's a Bigfoot or somebody down there, throwing, basketball-sized rocks in the water. And then this thing just would do it every now and then. So I just took my cell phone and just put the button where you can just take a bunch of pictures. And I got lucky enough to catch it at one of its things. And then I didn't want to get too near it because I didn't know what was going on there. But it was just like a big flash of light. And I don't know if it's like a portal opening up, the Bigfoots come in and out of, or...
Well, you kind of think it's the gap in the veil, don't you? When you're looking at that, it could be described as the curtains opening a little bit.
Yeah, that's a tree to the left of it. You can see the glow on the bottom.
Yeah.
From it. And, I've heard people say that trees have power and portals or whatever, but I don't know. I just know I didn't want to get near it.
Wood is used all the time, isn't it? Wood is a big connection to Bigfoot. And I've often thought, there must be a reason why they have a connection with wood. I mean, maybe not must be, but in my head, what's it got? There's something about wood.
Yeah.
And maybe it can be a tool to absorb energy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, but there's something about wood, I feel.
Like it store energy and all of a sudden it just, I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
And, you hear people talking about portals and the funny thing is there's a missing guy right there in that camp and they have never found him.
Oh, right.
Here in Oregon, yeah. They have a reward out, $10,000 or more.
What was the story to them?
He was camping up there in that area and just came up missing. He was camping with a bunch of people and came up missing, and then they never have found him yet. It's like one of the 411 cases.
Weird.
And it's right near that campground area there.
I mean, they've got to be taking chances, haven't they, taking people? It's not like they do it all the time. It's like randomly. Does something happen? Does an encounter go wrong? I mean, I've often thought some people could just have a heart attack seeing one of these things. and that's it. You know, the Sasquatch, maybe they haven't killed them, but they've ended up just through as a byproduct of an experience, end up with,
Maybe,
you
yeah.
know, a dead
Maybe
body.
they grab them and take them through the portal. I don't know.
Who
What do I do
knows?
with this?
I have no clue. I just know what I've seen, and it's very strange.
Yeah.
We've got a little bit of audio that you captured, and let me just see if I can bring it up quickly.
That'll be interesting.
These are, yeah. Can you hear this okay? Can you hear that all right? Or do I need to bring it in?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
let me just.
Now that's just a portion of it. It went for like about 5 minutes. There was a lot more to that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna bring. I'll play it again. I just wanted to make sure you could hear it because let me just see where it is.
And that's another portion of that. I think, did I send you 2 clips or just one?
You did. I'm gonna get them both up now. Yeah. Just give me one second. I don't know how to. I think I'll just have to play them.
And those were cleaned up by David Ellis of the Olympic Project.
Right, got you. I'll play this first one again then for people. There we go.
I also have one of them talking out in the woods that I haven't sent you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's some long drawn out howling, isn't it? It's some really deep as well in there. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot more to that too. That's just a little bit of it. Yeah.
Very guttural too in there. Like
yes.
You could hear some really.
I'll play this other one.
That was all happened all at the same time.
If anyone's heard anything like that, leave us a comment. I mean, it'd be great.
And that's part of the one that the Expedition Bigfoot plays every time they start their thing. Each show.
Oh, yeah. Right. Did you give that to them, or was it?
Toby did. He made a deal with them to use it.
Yeah. That's fair enough. I did have. This is one of the hairs that you captured. That you found.
Yeah, one of them. They're kind of blackish red. You know, they have a hue of red to them.
Mm-hmm.
Black tip, reddish.
There's all sorts of colors, isn't there, that people will see. And
then you can put them. You know, you can put it on a really strong flashlight, and you can see there's no medulla in it. You know, it's just empty inside. Where like a deer hair or dog hair or anything like that, they have that in there.
Jody says, "Oh, it almost sounds whale-like, mournful." It kind of sounded a bit like it was grieving or something like that. Anyone's got any questions? Put them in caps for me, and I will ask Darrell. It is just fascinating what's going on. What do you feel like is going on? I mean, I know you don't have answers, but
like I said, once I started trying to figure it out and thought, maybe it's the power lines with the ice cold water, spring water running through the crystal, the quartz crystals and creating some kind of vortex. And then, something just plain weird would happen, like 3 scratches deep in the ground in front of Toby's trailer. And, just out of the blue, 4 rocks sitting on the hood of my truck. I walk in the house to do some, walk back out. Here, these 4 rocks show up on the top of my pickup. No one within miles of you.
It's not like squirrels or animals are doing things like that either.
No, they wouldn't be able to carry none like rocks that big and all that. And it just kind of stands the hair up on the back of your neck, thinking, "Hey, there's something out here," and I'm home alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then after stuff weird like that happens for a few months, you kind of get immune to it.
Kind of desensitized from
it.
it.
Doesn't hurt you, so it's just kind of, oh yeah, well.
Yeah.
Sharon
T wants to hear the if you can send it, the audio, the little clip of them talking. That would be interesting to hear.
Yeah, I can send that to you.
Yeah.
Toby probably has it really good if you want to ask him, because he has a lot of stuff cleaned up. Because when you do parabolic, you'll hear the crickets in the background, and when they clean it up, it just pretty much stabilizes the sound itself.
Yeah,
it's really similar to a lot of some of the stuff that Ron Moorhead got that they call samurai chatter.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of sounds like that.
All right.
So,
you wonder, like you say before, if they can, imitate noises. Why they could just be imitating people talking, or imitating that kind of connection thing. John's 3. Now, John's 3. I know Kerry thinks it's John Senior the 3rd. I don't know. Can you put us right on that one? But thank you. We appreciate your donation as always. And he asked, Daryl, are you posting your evidence anywhere? Well, we've got the Al Moon Lab and Tobe Johnson on Facebook. I'll put a link in. He's kind of like the go-to. He has all the evidence, all the videos. There's a documentary coming out. When's it out? The Flash of Beauty?
Yeah.
When is that actually coming out?
The second half that pretty much deals with all the stuff we dealt with, the paranormal part of it, that's the second half. They have the first half out that's kind of more just basic Bigfoot stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'm not sure when they're putting out the second half. I know they have it. But,
I'll play a little clip of that in a second. We've got another question. Cheese Freak, Ginger Snap. Did you see any pinned arches? We have several over game trails.
Any arches?
Pinned arches. Have you seen any pinned arches?
Like tree limbs that are arched? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I can send you some pictures of some really good ones. The Native American guy, he told me don't go through those. It kind of, I don't know, does something. But I didn't really listen. I go walk through them.
I'm gonna say good. I just was messing around in a couple the other day.
Yeah, but yeah, there is a lot of those where they just take the tree limbs and arch them over and down. And there's a lot of X's where they'll break off tree limbs and jam them in the ground and make a big X.
What are they pinning the arches with? Different stuff, different ways?
Yeah, they'll just take the tree limbs and bend them over, and then they'll kind of tie them down to an existing stump or whatever's left there. They'll hook them on to that sometimes. Different things. Actually, we saw 2 last night in the road up there.
All right.
Bent over the road like that. I got out and tried to move them, but what they've done is up where they bent them over, they placed some big logs, jammed 3 big logs in like that, laying in the thing, and it arches over the trees on the road. So they don't want you to go any further. So we left. We backed up.
Let me just play a little bit of this trailer, because it is fascinating, and the people that are on it as well. But this, I'll have to ask Tob when it's coming out. It says early 2022, but I don't think it's out yet. But
the 23 for the next one.
Oh, is it? It could be.
I'm not sure either.
Well, we'll play a bit. We'll play it anyway, and then people can have an idea of.
I've had these experiences that have really affected me. And I talk to grown men who will stand there and cry over what they've seen. They won't go back in the woods to hunt.
Everybody I've ever talked to witnesses, it changes them somehow. Because you're seeing something that isn't supposed to be there.
I'm looking down there, and there's like these three very dark, very large figures. It took less than a second for me to realize what I was looking at were not people at all.
There was a wildlife biologist that works here in Oregon that confided in me in a private conversation. He told me very plainly he knows that the Bigfoot are real. And he said the reason that things are the way they are is because the Bigfoot are too intelligent and elusive. There's lots of elusive animals, but not this intelligent. He says you can't count them, you can't track them, you can't find them. There's a family of Bigfoot that has lived for years at the county dump. When the lights go out and the gate is locked and there's no one there at the dump, the Bigfoot come in every night and there's a smorgasbord there because they're the only animals that can get into the pit and back out.
If you want to ignore the thousands of reports that are out there, you can do that. But does that mean everybody's lying? Everybody's misconceived? Everybody's screwed up? What does that mean about all these people that are saying this all over the world, all over the United States, all over the Pacific Northwest now? People are saying they see these things. Open up your minds because they're out there.
A lot of people cannot handle that psychologically, mentally, or emotionally, because it challenges everything that they've been taught. And the belief system of the human is actually very, very rock solid if a human only wants to believe one sliver of reality.
Stuff was just starting to happen, just the paranormal stuff. Then the Bigfoot stuff just went nuts.
You know, I kind of pulled Daryl aside and I said, listen, this may get weird really quick. Just so you know, I'm okay with that. I think that's supposed to happen.
I saw the thing take off running, and it doesn't run like a man or an animal, really. It's just, it's hard to explain because it's so fast, but it almost looks like it just skips a beat when it runs, and like airborne, so fast. I can't explain it. It's just gone.
There's a stone that he actually gave me in the shape of his foot, actually, which is kind of cool.
They can drive you mad. I mean, you're experiencing things that a psychotic person experiences. Voices in your head and things that aren't there. These things can drive a person crazy.
Being one of the fortunate few to have actually witnessed these amazing creatures, I assure you they are out there, and who knows what else might be out there.
You run into them and you get this flash of beauty and they are gone.
I can't wait to see when it comes out.
I was actually with the girl Tara, that one that had the little crystal foot. Her and a friend of hers had seen a Bigfoot, and she told Toby, and Toby says, "Hey, meet these gals up there, and they're going to show you where they saw the Bigfoot." So me and the gal there, Tara, with the thing, we're walking up the trail, and she's going to show me where they saw it. And she looks down and goes, "What is that?" And I saw her pull that thing out of the ground, and it looks just like a crystal foot. Wow. You can still see the dirt on it where she pulled it out of the ground. But she showed me the height and everything, and I walked around. I did like a bunch of circles so I could see if I could see. But I saw a few footprints and broken stuff there where she saw that. Her and the other girl saw it.
It's fascinating, isn't it? I've talked to other people that have had gifts left for them that are in the shape of certain things. One that looks like a Bigfoot itself, like the whole body. It's crazy. Some people are having more connection than others for some reason. And you just left a comment there in the chat. And it seems to be the case, isn't it, that you can find them being negative hurts your abilities. There's something about this being open, being, of curiosity, not of wanting to harm these things, that they seem to open up more maybe. But also that land, there's something about that land where the Almoon lab is, some history on there possibly.
There's a lot of, there's history there where there's biblical history there where a group of pilgrims came in the early 1800s from Pennsylvania. And a lot of them are from a place called Hebron over in somewhere overseas, I don't know where, Jerusalem, somewhere over in there. But they built a church there in a little town, and the town was called Hebron. And they built it down in the area where they actually flooded the lake and flooded their town out when they built the lake. But they were all in that area. So there's a lot of biblical and Native American stuff there.
Definitely. You were talking earlier before about fossils. I think that was like before the show, but I've often said an archaeological dig would be very interesting in a place that there's a lot of activity or there's something worth digging for, and I think we'd bring something up. I think some things would be found if some magic team from out of Magic Land just appears and goes, look, let's do this dig. I think it would be fascinating to see just what's there. Yeah.
Also, like I said earlier about people that go to malls just to watch people, I think Bigfoots can tell your demeanor or tell the type of person you are. They'll step back and watch you or whatever they do. And like you said, certain people, they won't see them or whatever because they're not kind-hearted or they're not good people. They can kind of, weed out the people that, kind of, open-minded people or.
When you meet people, you can sometimes tell when someone walks in a room what mood they're in.
Yeah.
And so it's so easy, isn't it?
I'm always happy and smiling, and I take life one day at a time. I'm not a hater,
Yeah. No, it's all good. It's all good. And I think we've just sort of scratched the surface. It'd be great to have you back on, and we can go into other stuff, more of the images that you've got, and really kind of, delve into this even further because it is fascinating.
There's so much. I mean, Toby could write 5 books of the stuff that happened to us.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff that happens, you kind of don't want to tell people because they're going to think that you're some wacko. So we kind of kept a lot of that,
Yeah.
Like, just for one instance, I drink Coke, in the summer, maybe a Coca-Cola can. Mm-hmm. Inside the shop, we had a little table where Toby was doing some of his work. So I had an empty Coke can sitting there. So one night I'm hearing something rattling around in the shop. So I think, and it's all locked up. So I'm thinking, what the heck is in there? So I'm kind of scared, walking out there. It's dark. We're out in the woods here. Open the door, flip on the light, and here's this Coke can just doing circles like this. There's no wind in this shop. It's just circles. I'm just stopped in shock. Because you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And it's just like someone just took it and spun it like that, and it's just going around in circles.
Wow.
Empty Coke can.
Nice.
And you can't even do that with an empty can. It's just that's what's weird. You can take an empty can and it is so light, it's not going to do that. Now, if it had a little bit of something in it, it might. But that's just the stuff we kind of didn't tell a lot of people, the weird things, because they're going to think, you're a, crackpot. But I'm not a person that's ever done any drugs. I don't do any kind of, anything whatsoever. I don't drink alcohol. I've never done anything in my life. I barely take aspirin if I have.
We've never spoke to anyone who is a drinker and a drug taker who's seen Sasquatch.
Yeah.
As yet, we've never had anybody on yet that is, an alcoholic and sees Sasquatch. So
Right.
they're not excuses. It's what people use. But you're right. It's not easy to tell people, but you actually don't need to. And I've kind of said this before, that it's not your job to prove what these things are. You're just experiencing this, and like you say, you live every day, every day, and make the best of it. And you're actually kind of privileged in a way to experience these things that other people just simply wouldn't understand what's going on. And it's great you've got that mindset, because maybe you'll find out a little bit more. You will be able to.
It's kind of like some people are so desperate to see something or whatever. They're not going to see nothing. But me, I don't care. I'm just having fun. I'm out there enjoying myself in the woods. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Looking at the flowers, the birds, whatever. So maybe they show themselves to me or whatever because
of that.
Yeah, I'm not desperate to.
No, but it's great that you're sharing it with us, because this is definitely a great place with people that aren't going to laugh, who don't find it funny, who find it fascinating, and are supportive as well. Who's just sent me a message? That's fresh. You can send me a print if you want, images, to Daniela at hiddenexistence.com. I just want to make an announcement now that Kerry and Mark are going to Donnie Miller's on Monday to do they're going to be filming there. It's obviously going to be some sort of documentary, but they're going to be going live later on Monday night, probably around 9:00 Central. But they're going to be live on Hidden Existence at 7 p.m. Central. Kerry, Donnie, and Mark will all be there, and we'll get into what's going on over there and the setup and everything. So that's 7 p.m. Central on Hidden Existence. But Darrell, we'll definitely get you back on again. Really appreciate you coming on and sharing. Hopefully we'll get Tom on as well with you.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll send you some more pictures and the audio of the talking and that stuff also.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank
Some
you.
of those arches, and I got thousands of photos of weirdness like that.
Yeah, definitely we'll do it again, and we'll sort out a show, and we'll share some of your stuff again. So thanks everyone for turning up tonight. Thanks Jackie. Once again, thanks Darrell for your time.
Yeah,
really appreciate it. We'll be here on Friday for the late show. Kerry and Brad, hopefully, if not Mark. And but until then, everyone, it's getting late for me. I'm already falling asleep. It's gone 2:00. We'll see you all soon. Everyone, have a great week, and take care.